You have millions of Iranians every single day all over the country protesting this regime, sending the world every signal of, listen, stand on our side for once after 40 years. Whose side do you choose to be? We've been shot in the eye. We've been arrested. Our daughters are being poisoned in schools. How far do you want to let this go? There is a chance right now, historical moment, not just from the point of view of Israel, mind you, but for the whole free world to understand the significance of putting an end to a regime that has been the root cause of all the problems we've been facing.
Good evening and welcome to the Rosenberg Report. We have an exclusive interview tonight with the Crown Prince of Iran. He's the son of the late Shah of Iran, who was overthrown in 1979 when the Islamic Revolution took over that country. And the Ayatollah Khomeini took it over and turned it into a slave country, a country that at the leadership level hates the people of Israel and wants to wipe us off the planet, wants to bring about a second Holocaust. But the Iranian leadership doesn't only want to wipe out Israel. Israel's the little Satan in their eschatology, in their end times theology. The United States is the great Satan. So what makes this interesting, why am I doing my show on the 75th anniversary of Israel about the Crown Prince of Iran? Because he came to Israel this week. And we have an exclusive opportunity to sit down with him here in Israel and find out his story. Why does he love Israel and the Jewish people? Why did he decide to come here to Israel, the first Iranian leader ever to do so? What was his meeting like with Prime Minister Netanyahu? What is his message to Israel and the Jewish people? But also, what's his message to Christians, to evangelicals, his message to the TBN audience? Let's talk about it with the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi. Your Excellency, thank you so much for sitting down with the Rosenberg Report on TBN. I don't know how much experience you've had in communicating to Christians, but we're very, very interested, both obviously in Israel, but also the possibility of peace with Iran, democracy in Iran. Let's start with, why did you come to Israel? This is a big deal. It's a historic moment. Why did you even want to do it?
For over 4 decades, we have had a regime that from the very beginning planted the seed of hatred, of violence, of instability, of antagonism, of interference, of using its proxies to conduct, from their point of view, a mission of exporting an ideological religious revolution to the detriment of the Iranian people, and from the get-go establishing discrimination against religious minorities and all sorts of opinions. And for 4 decades, my fellow compatriots have suffered the consequences, but not just them, many in the region and beyond. So net, instead of going in the direction of a path of conflict, a path of uncertainty, of nuclear threats, of terrorism, of radicalism, the Iranian people have nothing to do with that. On the contrary, we are peace-loving people. We want to be able to have friendly relationship, cordial relationship with every nation, anyone on the planet that recognizes our sovereignty and independence, and work together towards peace, towards progress, towards modernity. That's the demand of today's generation, who have suffered all these years under this regime. Why Israel? Because Israel is, after all, a country with a democratic structure that understand how pivotal it would be under a different Iran to be a strategic partner, which is good for stability, for the region, for the betterment of relations. So it's the antithesis to what we currently have.
But is it a risk to your movement of trying to build an opposition, democracy and freedom? Is it a risk to come to the little Satan, as it were, to Israel? I mean, the clerics literally say this every week, death to Israel, not to mention death to America. Is that a risk to your message?
On the contrary, it reinforces the narrative that, unlike the regime, the Iranian people want to have peace, want to have cordial relationship, want to enjoy the very same liberties and human rights values that democracies around the world have. They want to be part of that equation. They want to be part of the world that is evolving in that direction. They want to make sure that just as much as you have a guaranteed freedom of speech or religion, say in the United States or any other democracy, we should have the same for us. So all of our faiths, all of our opinions, all of our rights as human beings are respected and guaranteed by the rule of law and by the Constitution. It's not something alien to us. Let's not forget that before most of the Western world as such existed, Cyrus the Great, 25 centuries ago, was the first one to introduce the very concept of human rights and liberty of faith. We are the children of Cyrus.
Yeah,
that's
a big message of yours. And it's fascinating to me because both as a Jew on my father's side and as an evangelical follower of Jesus, I'm intrigued, right? Isaiah, the prophet, said specifically by name, hundreds of years before Cyrus was born, that there would be a leader, God would choose him, his name would be Cyrus, and he would liberate the Jews and rebuild the temple. And then he did. I'm not aware of any Iranian leader, though, who's ever thought, yeah, that's a good thing, right? But that's the tension between, inside the Persian history, between the Hamans who wanted to annihilate the Jews and Queen Esther, who God used to intervene. But I think, we've lived for so long thinking there's a Haman in charge of Iran. That these people they don't want to just get rid of Israel. They want to literally destroy us all. So we're not used to an Iranian leader, the son of the previous Shah, the king of Iran, even wanting to come here, much less talking positively about rebuilding the temple and liberating Jews, that history is so important. Why is it important to you?
Because don't look at me and why I'm here. Look at hundreds of thousands of young Iranians within the last 2-3 years gathering in front of Cyrus's tomb in Pasargad in the Shiraz area in Iran, protesting against the regime and chanting slogans about their heritage, about their sense of national identity. And it somehow ties back to what I just told you. So it's not just me, it's the voice of millions of Iranians who have been
Cyrus the Great remains great among the Persian people today?
It is
Iranian people?
A sense of civilizational and cultural and national identity that transcends everything. I mean, whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a Baha'i or a Jew, or if you are a Kurd or a Nazari or a Baluch, that sense of national identity finds itself back in the narrative of a proud nation with a proud history and with something, and how much it contributed to Western civilization. Thomas Jefferson incorporated into the Constitution of America, or the Declaration of Independence, inspired very much by what Cyrus the Great had said.
Amazing. Yeah.
So if you look at that and the perspective of where we stand as a nation in the context of these very ideals and values, as opposed to a regime that has been warmongering, has been planting the seed of hatred and disdain, and it's night and day. And it's really, even if you go back in time in terms of the Zoroastrian values of Ahura Mazda versus Ahriman, Ahura Mazda being the god of light and truth and justice and what have you, and the darkness and the evil and everything. It's evil versus light. That's literally how we look at this regime as it impacts us Iranians at home, but how much destruction it has created in terms of it's basically seeing the light in peace, in harmony, in coexistence, in good relation, in tolerance, as opposed to the contrast. And part of my message to the world is us Iranians want to have cordial relationship with the world. And why not start with the most obvious, which is where Israel stands in terms of being threatened by a regime that calls for its disappearance. Right. Whereas me knowing that, among other things, the best experts in managing water issues happen to be Israeli experts. And what kind of a relationship with this country would be mutually beneficial, and to my country, instead of this narrative of hatred and anti-Semitism, whatever it is that is out there. And that's part of the whole picture.
You had an opportunity to sit down with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What was your impressions of him? What did you say to him? Did you talk specifically about your idea of the Cyrus Accords? And would you describe that a little bit to us?
I hope one day we will be able to address all of these things of how post-regime, there are so many opportunities, and that goes without saying. But the immediate focus is on the now. Okay. And the now is basically, you have millions of Iranians every single day all over the country protesting this regime, sending the world every signal of, listen, stand on our side for once after 40 years. Whose side do you choose to be? We've been shot in the eye. We've been arrested. Our daughters are being poisoned in schools. How far do you want to let this go? There is a chance right now, historical moment, not just from the point of view of Israel, mind you, but for the whole free world to understand the significance of putting an end to a regime that has been the root cause of all the problems we've been facing, to liberate a nation that will be the guarantee of stability and will eliminate every single problem that you see today, from radicalism to extremism to terrorism to the nuclear threat. Everything ultimately touches. And what's the alternative? And from Prime Minister Netanyahu to any other world leaders or legislators that I've been talking all these years, and particularly lately, I said, look, the alternative is right in front of your face. It's a liberated nation that shares the very same values that you have, but you insist on continuing negotiating with those who are part of the problem to begin with. How do you expect to find a solution out of that?
Do you support the idea of this nuclear deal that President Obama and now President Biden have been trying to encourage the Iranian leadership to pursue? Or do you think that's a fool's errand? I don't know what your perspective is on the nuclear negotiations.
It's always a matter of saying whether it's a gun or the finger on the trigger. Can they be trusted, regardless of what they sign? And how many times have they been dubious? It's just lack of trust at the end of the day. Even if you have a so-called agreement, what does it really mean? Mm-hmm. And what does it achieve? And what was the last time you tried the result that you obtained? More money released to a regime that, rather than spending it on starving Iranians, have been reinforcing their proxies, whether in Syria or in Lebanon.